Okay. Not like, I just... Welcome. You're listening to Nuditea, a podcast where we get naked with our feelings while drinking tea. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Wendy, and on this podcast, we talk about life, travel, food, our feelings about random things. Today, that random thing is body image and insecurity. But first, what tea are we drinking?
I'm drinking a lemon ginger from the Tea Grab box just because I'm getting sick and I'm hoping ginger just solves it all, but it won't. But
I'm starting to question whether or not we should be sitting this close to each other.
I'm probably past the point of contagion. My contagion was probably
I don't know.
Like before my symptoms even started happening.
So if I get sick, it's your fault, essentially.
Sure. Yeah.
I am on my period and everything sucks. My cramps are killing me. So I'm drinking a Chinese herbal remedy cure-all called Ban Lan Gen. And there is no English translation for this. It's just a mishmash of herbal remedies into a powder form, into little pellets, that then becomes this brown tea. It's delightful. It's actually probably like 80% sugar. It's delicious.
That's so unlike you to be like 80% sugar. Love it. I will say both of us are trying to use tea to heal whatever is happening with us.
That's what teas do.
It's a cure-all.
They heal the body and soul. Okay.
So today, we're just gonna jump right in.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay. So yeah, body image in general. We're gonna start with like, when did you start feeling, or just knowing consciously what you felt about your body, maybe that people were putting a lot of weight on, how you looked, that kind of thing. What kind of age? We'll start with you.
I would say just like forever. In Asian culture, it's kind of a thing where family members, relatives, close friends, they just comment on your outward appearance as a way of greeting almost. Like, oh, I haven't seen you. Oh, you've gotten fat. Or like, oh, your face got rounder. Or like, oh, you've lost weight. Oh, your hair looks this and that. So from a very, very early age, I would say probably 10, before the age of like super teens, like 13-ish, I would say I was already very conscious of weight and skin and just like my outward appearance in general, and that's a lot to do with my cultural background.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they focused a lot usually on weight versus anything else?
Well, at first it was weight. But then as I got older, in high school especially, I dealt with some really, really severe acne issues. So there were tons of comments related to my skin and how they felt like I wasn't washing my face enough, which now we know is kind of like counterproductive. Mm-hmm. I was washing my face a lot, probably did not help. So it was just a lot to have to think about, because it had always been like oh, you're very chubby. Mm-hmm. And now it was like, oh, you're very chubby and you've got braces and you've got glasses and you've got all this acne. I was like the quintessential Asian nerd girl all through probably like grade 7, grade 8 into 9, 10. It wasn't probably until grade 11 when I started to get things together. Also because I got contacts, and also because my braces got removed sometime in that time frame.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the version of a teen movie where they take off their glasses and let down their hair.
Yes.
That's what happened.
And then people were like, oh, behind the glasses, it's just massive amounts of acne. Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I'm trying to think. You're always kind of consciously, I think, aware of it. I can't remember the exact time where it's like you go from being kind of a carefree kid, not really thinking about that, and you have other things on your mind that do not involve your body or how clear your skin is or your eyebrows, all that stuff. Probably grade 5 started to really kind of focus on it a bit more. I think I had my baby weight or whatever extra weight kind of stayed with me for a while. Probably not until like grade 7, 8 it really started to like shed, and you could actually notice like, oh, that was baby weight. That wasn't just me eating unhealthy or a lot. Granted, love my chips, loved it when I was a kid. Definitely had a bunch, and my mom did make dessert basically every meal for a long time growing up, but I wouldn't chalk that weight up to, I would just chalk it up to baby fat, essentially, that didn't shed. So it was definitely grade 5, 6, you just kind of start noticing. And I think I always noticed that I was probably always the heavier set of my friend group. And even though I wouldn't consider what I was or even what I am now as an unhealthy weight, it's just a matter of, I guess, perspective as a kid. And I think even if you are thin, you don't actually think it. So that kind of follows you from grade 6. How old's that?
I have no idea. Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably a very similar age.
Yeah.
That's also, I think, the age where you're starting to get into puberty area, and a lot of girls around that age start to mature very rapidly. And now it might be even younger than that. Now girls who are like 10 look like they're 18. Yeah. But when we were in elementary school, I think at around the time of puberty, that group of girls who are always the most popular and, I don't know, just very popular with the guys, at least, they suddenly rapidly developed into like women. And that wasn't necessarily like, oh, they suddenly sprouted boobs out of nowhere. It was also just like the way they dressed, the way they did their hair. Sometimes they started wearing makeup. So I think that was around the time where suddenly you were also more conscious of these things, because other people were also kind of playing into that. So I don't know. I wasn't really a part of that crowd, but seeing those girls change also made me feel like, oh, maybe I should be
basically, what aren't you doing?
Yeah, like what I still feel like I generally look quite young compared to other girls of my age, but I think that's just because my face is round and I'm Asian, and I don't know if I can do anything about that at this point. But at that time, it felt like, oh, well, what if I dressed a certain way? What if I started wearing makeup and like curling my hair more? So it was a very strange time. Puberty is a crazy ride, guys. So many things happen.
We should probably just ask some of our guy friends, but men in general don't feel the same, I think, pressures of body image. They do now. I think it's like kind of ramped up for them a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do with, I think, social media and just media in general, and they're exposed to the ideal version of what a guy's supposed to look like. And so they're definitely feeling what I think women have been feeling for centuries about how much power and privilege is put on people who look desirable.
That's very interesting, because women are still under a lot of pressure in terms of outward appearance because of social media, but I think it's almost like gone in opposite directions, because for women now, we recognize that there are many different body types and body images that people should be comfortable with, and people should love themselves in their healthy body to just like be comfortable with their own skin. But for men, if you think about it, there's really only like one type of body that is ideal for men, and that's just like you're tall, you're like lean and a bit muscular. Maybe some girls would prefer you to be like a bit more muscular, but in general the ideal shape of a man is not to have a little bit of baby fat or to be super hairy all over. Like it's a very, you want that dolphin chiseled body, and that's
definitely
like
become that for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like for men it's almost regressing. Like before they didn't have to worry so much about it, but now it's like that's kind of the standard. And are we pushing men too hard in terms of physique because of social media? And we don't really talk about that a whole lot.
That could also just be with regards to like the uptick in superhero movies. You obviously see like the male superheroes are just very muscular, and like human physique is like, it's insane for even actors to get to that point. So I don't expect that from anyone. But you also still see in movies how women are more likely to pick a guy over personality than looks. And that's, I think, has a lot to do with just kind of, you want maybe conversation and humor, we just put more stock in it. Not that we don't put stock in looks, because we totally do. I mean, if you're not attracted to a person, sometimes like humor and personality isn't necessarily enough. That's just kind of how it is. It's like a makeup of all of it. But I think, men are having to, they have basically one type of body type, and you're right. Well, women have like the apple shape and the pear shape and the hourglass shape.
The Kim Kardashian, the athletic type. We have so many other images of a healthy, happy human body now, because there's just been a lot of pushback from girls who aren't model thin. Oh my gosh, America's Next Top Model. That was such a huge thing when we were teens.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that probably had quite a negative effect on a lot of people because there was like all of 1 or 2 plus size, aka just normal size
4?
people.
Like,
yeah, it's like size 4, size 6 girls who were on that show. I mean, I'm sure in later seasons they had many more plus size models.
I know a season they did short girl season.
Oh boy.
Like that was their big, that was like their big, oh, we're only gonna have like these women under this height so that, you know,
we only have women under 6 feet in this season, okay? Previously everyone was 6 foot and above, but I mean, I guess that's unrealistic.
Yeah, and then it was like in their photo shoots, how do we make you look longer?
Great.
How do we make you look tall?
So it's just like, you're short, but we want to make you look like what we still believe is the ideal model body type, which is kind of but why though?
I still think the images or what society has told us to do with our bodies has shifted a little bit from weight, even though there's still backlash. There's plenty of people who being like, why are you celebrating people treating their bodies unhealthy or being obese, all this stuff, even though that's not the case and that's a very limited point of view.
Yeah.
But I think it's gone more towards your eyebrows, your like makeup. I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to makeup, and I'm never gonna learn because it's too late in my life and I'm like too expensive.
It's not too late.
But it's like less about your body. It's still there. It is still very much there. Our diet industry, like the different diets you can go on is, I think, has ramped up. It's also about choosing like the right diet for you if you're choosing to diet, but not everyone knows that and they'll do like the supplement thing. I think we're being pushed and the weight thing is still there, but then we have all the extra bits.
Little bitty bits. I don't know. Maybe it's comforting for us as a gender to have things that are much more easily manipulated on our bodies, that like eyebrow shapes. You can literally just shave off your entire eyebrow, pull a Jenna Marbles, and just draw that shit back in. It's so easy to do, and you can go hire a professional and just have that done in like 20 minutes. Whereas things like weight loss, it's like it takes time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of energy.
And it's different for everybody. Some people lose it easier than others.
Yeah.
And some people are literally big boned, and that's just what their body's going to be like. So we have to be like okay with that.
Yeah. I think this is kind of linked to another cultural thing for me, because unlike America, in Asia, there's really only one ideal body type. It's not like here you have all of these different body types that you can fit yourself into or categorize yourself into. In China, it's always just been one, and it's been like, you're a very, very slim lady and you've got boobs and like a bit of a round butt still, but you're like so thin. There's all of these random tests to see if you're the ideal body shape. I don't know if you've heard about any of these, but there's ones where like, oh, if you hold a standard piece of letter paper up against your body should not be showing past like the size of the paper. If you have your iPhone 7 or 6 or something on your lap when your legs are together, if your legs extend past the iPhone, that means you're too fat. If you can like reach one arm around your back and then reach all the way around and touch your belly button from the other side, that means you've got a thin waist. If you can't do that, you're too fat. There's all of these things where how many coins can you stick into your collarbone hole? If you can stick more than 10 in there, you have such a good bone structure. Insane how much of the rhetoric surrounding body image is related to how skinny you are. Again, the society has shifted a little bit and people want to be healthier and they don't necessarily want to look very, very thin anymore, but there's still an emphasis on like, ooh, you're super thin, but you're also healthy and sporty and you're sexy at the same time and you've got an S line, but you're so lean. Like, it's a very strange category of beauty to fit into.
For someone to chase that and then meet that, if that's even remotely fucking possible.
That's the thing. It's possible for a very tiny group of people.
0.08%.
And then the rest of us are just kind of like, well, damn, what do we do now? So I think my parents have always also considered thin but healthy to be like the ideal look. So growing up, that was always kind of like, oh, you're too chubby, you eat too much, blah, 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 you're too many oils, too many fats, and all of these things contribute to you not being skinnier. So I don't know. It was also, you hit the point of puberty where kind of your baby weight sheds off. And I think a lot of that with my parents came before I shed off all my baby weight. But then that's the kind of thing that's... Yeah, but that's the thing that stays with you through your teens.
Those are your formative years.
Yeah.
That impacts you, I think it's like between 10 and 13, or your informative years. So if something traumatic happens to you during that time, it sticks with you and it's really hard to program out.
But I don't know. I've been pretty lucky. I have never really let it affect me. Obviously, I'm still constantly in the mindset of like, oh, what if I lost this little bit of weight? I think I would look a little better, quote unquote, in like whose book. It's just like, for me, I think I would look better if I lost this amount of weight. But I've also never placed a lot of emphasis on it, mainly because I love food too much. If you love food this much, it's really hard to deal with diets. 80% of losing weight is your diet, and I'm not committed to dealing with that 80%. So I try to fix certain things about my diet, and then I try to exercise, and then you know what, I lose the weight I lose. If I don't lose anything, it's my own fault, whatever. So I've kind of always had like a cool, it'd be nice if I could lose this weight, because then I would be closer to what my brain has formed into the ideal body shape. However, I also don't give a crap because I want to eat the things that I want to eat, and not have to stress about like, oh, I need to like not eat this many calories, or like do this many exercises, or like not eat the next 3 meals because I need to binge on this sushi right now. Like it's too much for me as a food loving individual. I can't deal with it.
Okay, so I'm a little bit the opposite, I guess, in a way. So I played sports for like since grade 4 constantly until grade 12, and I finally lost the baby weight around grade 8, and I was, I think, probably at that point the most comfortable with my body, but at the same time I didn't know that I was comfortable. It's one of those things you don't realize that you're okay with yourself sometimes until you're not okay with yourself again. So what ends up happening is I was very, very active in grade 8, grade 9, because I had my rep basketball on the side. So I was constantly active, but I didn't get a lot of, like, my parents weren't on me about my weight. They've, I don't think for the most part, been on anyone in the family, but I'm not sure. I can't really speak to my sisters and my brothers. Yeah. They're pretty much just like, be happy. And so I'm thankful for that, but yet I still found myself, I'm very hard on my, so even though I was super active, I was still, like, in my mind, not as thin as my teammates. So even though I might have been thin compared to like other people, or I was actually very healthy, you still compare yourself to the people you're around. Yeah. And so I was just like still bigger, and so I never really thought myself as a healthy weight. And it's a really hard thing to struggle with, because as you get older, you are developing as a woman. And I think there's this weird notion that to grow up, you get curves and your body changes. And for some reason, it is desired almost that you remain body type wise to be a younger girl. It's changed a little bit now. Like, we're like, yes, curves, all that stuff. But as you're growing up in, what was that, 2000s, the 2000s?
Yeah, the 2000s.
That was very much not the conversation. It was, if you have curves, and I'm not someone who has a lot of curves, I wouldn't say that, but there's still this idea that you have to remain as thin as possible, but you're also someone who's growing muscle because you're working out or you're doing sports and all that stuff. And then I hit a really low point, because even grade 11, grade 12, I noticed I was like back to probably a heavier weight. I never actively weighed myself, but you can just kind of tell these things. So my 2 years off from university was like pretty low point, because I wasn't doing sports. I was working at Tim Hortons. I was not eating healthy, and I felt exhausted a lot of the time, and I also felt alone.
That's hard, because when you're in an environment, when you're at home and there's access to all this food, and at work when you have access to all of this other food that's very unhealthy. I know this for a lot of athletes coming from a situation where they're very active all the time, coming down from that and not being as active very suddenly is really hard on their bodies as well. And a lot of people have a hard time coping with that.
It was definitely one of the contributing factors, such a drastic swap. And I'm also someone who, one of my sisters had an eating disorder. She was hospitalized for it. And I'm wondering if that has an impact on me in the sense that I knew not to go down that path, and I also hate throwing up. So I was never someone who like fell into anorexia or like starving myself or like throwing up. But I'm also kind of, if I didn't have that to kind of reflect on, that like the struggle that she went through and still goes through, I can see myself maybe going that direction.
I think that's true for a lot of people. I was an only child, so obviously I didn't have someone in my life that was that close to me go through an eating disorder. But the thought of like throwing up or just not eating in general has always kind of tempted me, because it's kind of like you still do whatever you want to do, and then it's like a very dark private moment where you kind of just like let go of all of the feelings of guilt and maybe just relieving your own stresses and insecurities for a little bit. It's like a very tempting place to go to. But I think for you, maybe because you had an example of like what can go very wrong and be very sad for everyone around her, and for me, I guess my mindset has never gone that dark. So I guess we're like kind of lucky that we never really had to really experience that, because that really messes with your body, and it's hard to get through.
100%. I also think, so getting back into university, like sports were back.
Yeah.
I got smarter, I think, with what I was eating. But I think it's come to a point where I'm still punishing myself. Not for that, but like...
Punishing yourself in what way? And for what?
I guess for, like, eating, which sucks.
Ugh, Kim.
And... Oh, sorry, 1 second. Because it's like, how do I control myself so I don't get back to that point of feeling really low?
Right.
But having taken nutrition...
Yes.
And I know how to eat properly, and I think I eat okay. But if I don't have sports, I limit what I'm eating to kind of offset it. Because I'm not someone who goes to the gym. I hate it. It's not.
I also hate it.
It's not my environment, basically. But I hate myself. I'll eat snack food. And then it's not like... It's always in the back of my mind, basically. I'm not, like, actually super punishing myself, but it's there. Like, I've just eaten this.
It's just kind of you guilt trip yourself after it's happened.
Yeah.
Which is the worst, because, like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. And there's some days I barely eat, not because necessarily I'm like, I can't eat these calories, but sometimes I'm like, I barely expended energy. I'm also living very cheaply right now. And I'm also, like, sometimes too lazy to make food, but in the back of your mind, you're like, well... That's just weight I don't have to, or calories I don't have to worry about later.
Which is, I think, just a continuation of this very unhealthy mindset about weight and the relationship your weight has with food. And, like, obviously, weight does have a relationship with food, but I think sometimes it's really hard to find the balance of... Like, how do you control your cravings when you really want to eat something that you know is not good for you? How to be able to limit how much you have of that thing, and then how to feel about yourself afterwards, especially the afterwards. Because, like, I'll binge, like, ramen noodles or, like, eat way too many fries at once. And it's just, like, in the moment... body image and body insecurities are like not in my brain because I'm enjoying the moment.
Right, yeah.
But then it's always afterwards that's really hard, because you're just like, what do I do now? Like, what do I do? Which is why I think throwing up and, you know, kind of just fasting for a ridiculous amount of time is like a
how
very...
we compensate.
Yeah, how we compensate, but it's just like, we know,
Yes.
especially because you take in nutrition.
It's so frustrating because I know I shouldn't feel like this.
Yeah,
I do.
and also, you know that you shouldn't feel like this, but also you know that it's also not good for you to be doing these things. So I think it's just trying to crawl your way out of that mindset is really hard to do. I don't know. I feel like maybe a lot of nutrition classes, or maybe a part of the nutrition curriculum, should be about how to deal with the psychological aspect of your relationship with food and how that relates to issues of body image. Because it's not something we really talk about. We talk about, this is how you eat healthy. This is how you exercise and be healthy. This is how you love yourself. But it's just like, saying all of those things is like, when you're in a very depressed state, just telling someone to feel better. It's like throwing words out, and they don't really have that much of an impact because our brains are already hardwired into these connections of just not feeling good about ourselves or not feeling good about things that we've eaten or things that we've done or haven't done, that it doesn't really help us.
Yeah.
So what do you think would help you when you're feeling that way, when you're kind of punishing yourself?
I don't know. I think it's finally just coming to terms with who I am. I always had this like thing as a kid where I had 5 things I could fix about my body for some reason. And so like magically I would get rid of this, or I'd get rid of that, I'd get rid of that. And then there's always this idea that like one of the summers I would like actually like lose weight. And then I'd come back to school and people would be like, oh shit. Like, I don't know, like, it's a weird mindset. And I think I was like always probably the bigger of the females in my family too. But for some reason I don't know what it is, but you're always stalking yourself like up against someone.
I think that's how we've grown up. We've gotten so used to it because all we've seen is like shows like America's Next Top Model, where girls are compared to other girls. And even growing up in school, we have friends being compared to friends in different groups or within the same group. It's just, it's always been about a sense of competition. And I will add that it's not weird that you have like a list of 5 things you want to change. I'm pretty sure that all girls have at least, at minimum, like one thing that they would like to change about themselves.
Started so early.
I didn't have like the 5 things about my body that I would change, but I would always, if I saw a girl that I felt had a better body than me, I would always immediately think, oh, I wish that we could just like switch bodies, or like my body would magically look like that tomorrow, and then maybe I could also have all her clothes. Just like these feelings of wanting to be in a different type of body, I think is very normal, and it's just always been a part of our childhood and adulthood.
The programming that we've basically been given.
Yeah.
And it's not every day I feel like this.
Yeah.
There's some days where it's like, damn, I look good, all this stuff, I'm happy about myself, but then there's just other days where it's like,
that RW & Co. white top, Kim, really working it.
Yeah.
Real cute.
So there's plenty of times I just wish, being as educated as I am, this wouldn't affect me, and just, it wouldn't take up so much of my brain power. The amount of times you just spend obsessing about how you look when I could just be using that for better things.
Yeah.
I just hate how it controls me.
Yeah. Given our level of education, I didn't even take any nutrition courses, and you have. It's just like, we know all of these things that we shouldn't be doing in our brains, but they're still there. We can't blame ourselves for that. I just don't even know at this point, since we're already here, we've grown up in a society where we have ideal body types, and only now are we starting to see society open up a little bit more to different looks and different like vibes off of people, and maybe talk a bit more about people as people rather than just like this fleshy shell that we're in. I don't know, can we just hope that the next generation is a lot better at keeping these feelings away, or like seeing past them, than we are? Not that it's too late for us.
I think we're in a very hard growing up decade. Not that like, I think my sisters had it. I think my mom I could probably talk to her and she probably felt many of these things. And I'm wondering, is it better now? Like, are the women or the girls growing into women feeling different? Are we putting, again, too much stock? It's just so easy, I think, with movies even, just putting so much stock into beautiful looking people. Because we see someone portraying what our life, the character that they're portraying, might even reflect something we're going through. And I think it's really easy for us to connect then with that person and wanting to be that person in a lot of ways, including looks. So I don't know what the solution is.
I don't really think there is like a clear-cut solution. I think everyone is kind of headed in the right direction. I especially feel that for fashion, because when we were growing up, fashion trends
What were the plus
were
size
so limited
options?
to, like, if you were thin enough, you could have any of the fashionable clothes on your body and look good. But those trends were so limited to like a certain body type, like the Britney Spears look, like little tiny crop tops or like short skirts, and I don't know, all of those trends were so catered towards one demographic of body type that it was impossible to feel okay if you didn't look good in that style, or if your body just wasn't able to fit into that style. So I think now I love seeing all of these fashion icons of different body types, because they're killing it. Like, they're showing that they have styles that are so amazing and so reflective of their personalities, and it doesn't matter what their body size or body shape is. They've found what really works on them, and they're using that to their full advantage. And I love seeing that, because now it's just like, not all the Instagram influencers are model-esque Britney Spears types. They're now different genders, different body types, different body shapes, different heights, just different skin tones, different styles that you're seeing that you can try to relate to. So I think that's slowly going to make things a lot better for a lot of young girls, and hopefully guys. Because we also see some fashion icons who are men who are also trying to portray the same message.
Of just, you don't have to be this one type of human being, and male in general. Because it's not even like I feel any of the people I know, I don't care how they look. I'm just a very hard on myself individual. So I don't know, for me, if there's any easy, there won't ever be an easy fix, but because like validation from other people won't fix it either. I'm not that person. I've never been that person. So even someone being like, damn, you look good today, it has very little effect on me.
My first thought is just like, yeah, but I still want to lose 3 kilograms, so...
Yeah, like, okay, but there's still this aspect of me that I'm not, like... I mean, you see this, but I'm still seeing this. I think just so many people, we're so hard on ourselves because we're trying to reach whatever our goal is, and then that goal changes once we reach that goal. So there's people who definitely have lost weight, and they feel super happy about themselves, and there's people who don't care to, and they're super happy about themselves. But it's a matter of, will we in our generation get to a point where it just doesn't weigh on us so much?
Yeah. I just want us to have better language and better representation in terms of being mentally and physically and actively healthy. I think all of those things just need to come together in a very like psychoanalytical way for people to really like feel it. People have been preaching to us this whole time about loving your bodies and being yourself and like be healthy, but like love yourself in your healthy state. But it's just like bouncing off of us basically at this point. It has like no effect. So I think that's to do with the education that we received and the impact of society on us as we were growing up. That is so hard to go back on. It's like PTSD, because how do you escape this negativity surrounding your own body and all of these self-criticisms that you have?
Because there's definitely like certain sentences or certain phrases people have said to me when I was probably at like a chubbier time, and then there was also like a time where I felt good. My mom probably said something about how crying.
Take your time now.
Yeah, so there was like probably a time, I think in grade 9, even where I was wearing a halter top, which I would never like to. And my mom didn't necessarily say anything terrible, but it was like, Kim, you should cover up. She was more like being modest about it.
Modest is hottest, Kim.
Kind of thing. And she doesn't.
Side note, my mom also never let me wear halter tops for the same reason.
Yeah, so it's like, that's not something she was used to me seeing in, and she was like worried about like just, I guess, the skin reveal. But even in a time where I like felt good, you get like these slightly negative comments.
Yeah.
But like, she did not do that out of anything body image wise.
Whereas my mom was the complete opposite. She would literally be like, do you think you're skinny enough to wear that? Like, she would actually say those things. And I eventually got to the point where I'd be like, yeah, this is what I want to wear. And I fit into it, so I'm good. Yeah. And she'd be like, okay.
I guess I gotta deal with it.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. That was like the one time, like, that just sticks out of my mind that my mom said something and she didn't mean it out of that way. Image. But you internalize it that way.
Yeah, it's rough. You're very impressionable, and it's like a very sensitive time, so it's hard not to take things super, super personally.
Yeah.
Feel attacked. It's one of those things where I feel if I were to become a parent, I would definitely do a better job of than my parents did, because all of that negativity surrounding body weight and your outward appearance when I was younger, it just did not help.
Yeah.
It made me look up to people that, for me, unattainable standards for myself. That's not a healthy place to be in, and I'm fairly glad that my parents brought me up in other ways that gave me like a very resolute, strong personality to be like, you know what? I don't really give a shit. I don't give enough of a shit to actually care this much about the way I'm feeling. I just want to feel like I'm being a healthy person, and I'm very committed to that. But other than that, I'm just like, if I can't lose weight to reach my target goal weight, whatevs. Also,
the crazy thing, sorry, but on that, you're like, because your parents were very negative and very body shaming.
That's the funny thing. They never considered the fact that this is a very bad thing to do to a young girl. So it's very
normal in culture, for sure.
It's very normal. All of my Asian friends got called out by their parents or relatives for being too fat, mainly being too fat. It doesn't matter. You're just too fat. Unless you're with your grandparents and then you're like kind of too thin and then they want to feed you. But they always thought, oh, we're family members, so we want to tell you the truth so that you can be the best version of yourself. They wanted to say these things because they thought it would be good for
their
us.
idea of what the best version is of yourself.
Exactly. They were like, oh, this is the best for you. People who aren't this close to you would never tell you the truth. Did the truth have to come in this type of package?
In this form? Yeah.
It was just so searing to be hearing these things. And even now, I think I get a little prickly if my parents bring up how chubby I was in like elementary school and high school. It's just like,
you're a growing
if
child.
you look at the pictures, I'm just a normal sized kid. Okay? I've always fluctuated right in the middle of my BMI range. So it's just to them.
The crazy thing is, so you grow up with body shaming and you carry that with you. I grew up with no body shaming. It's basically self-shaming.
Yeah.
So how do you raise a kid? By being positive to them, obviously. But there's still those external forces you can't comprehend with. And like there's bullying because kids are savage. Kids are so savage.
Mean.
They're so afraid of sticking out for the most part. Maybe again, that's even possibly changing. But you can be as good as you can be as a parent. And I think my parents, for me, did a pretty good job of just being like, you be you. And they're still like that. But I think it's almost inevitable that women in particular will get a complex, which is crazy because you definitely had the body shaming childhood, but I didn't. But we kind of still raised with our own insecurities.
It's just like being too hypercritical. That is society's fault. That is completely society's fault. Fuck you, society in the early 2000s. Thanks a lot. ruined a perfectly good youth for us.
Yeah.
I think I've now reached a point where different types of body insecurities are surfacing that I never had to think about before. One that comes to mind is women who have given birth, moms, and their body insecurities. And it's hilarious because the reason I'm thinking about these things is not only because I'm of the age now where it's like I'm considering having kids,
planning, yeah.
but also like all of the young YouTubers that I grew up watching are now moms, and now they're dealing with all of the same issues. And because a lot of them are like beauty or lifestyle or fashion type YouTubers, they all have to address these issues because their bodies have changed and their skin has changed and their whole look has changed because of this very natural process that they've been through. So now it's not so much, oh, right now my body is like this and I want to change it to this. It's now almost like in the future I'm going to have to be dealing with these other problems with body insecurity
you've never had to deal with before.
Yeah.
Your body's never changed this way to accommodate a life.
And the unknown is really scary because everyone has a different experience post-pregnancy. Some people bounce back really fast. Some people never really do. Some people kind of do and kind of don't. Like, it's very difficult to say. And I think now, having already this ingrained hypercritical mindset of myself, I think it's going to be a difficult time for me and probably like for many women post first pregnancy and probably after every single pregnancy that they choose to have. It doesn't feel good. It's not the same body. It's not the same tension and the same color, the same smoothness. Like, everything is going to change and you may or may not get that back. I don't know how to deal with that. I still don't know. I don't know how to deal with the issues that I currently have. I don't know how to deal with these future issues. Someone please tell me.
I don't know, if you can't love your body before, maybe there's people who feel that release of, they just let it go and they're like, they feel happier after they get pregnancy body. I don't think that happens a lot. I'm wondering how my sister has dealt with that, having also dealt with an eating disorder and constantly just dealing with that. But yeah, it's just another step where women are, again, and you even look at like celebrities are body shamed right after. Like, how long does it take them to lose their weight? And if they're getting body shamed and they look real good and they bounce back so quickly, and then there's just the regular schlums like us, regular schmoes like us, just doing what we can and just having to accept it. And honestly, all of this comes down to eventually self-love and just being okay with your body now and with whatever changes it comes. It's just basically this whole episode in a nutshell is it's really hard, but you have to get there.
Yeah. This whole episode, fuck you society, and also everyone, we're just all going through it. Just try your hardest to love yourself. It's hard sometimes, but you know, we just have to try. See you in 5 years and I'll do an episode about post-pregnancy Wendy body.
Yes.
See how that works out.
Final thoughts would just be to any of your nieces, nephews, children that you are impressionable on, focus on their mind, focus on their other skills. Yeah, they might be adorable. It's really hard for even us, I think, to program that out of us. And I make sure that when I'm around like young, impressionable females, to first compliment their mind whenever I can, or the skills they're doing. And so since that's something I didn't necessarily grow up with for my peers, it's a matter of starting there. Yeah. And then hopefully their generation grows up with a lot less body
we just have to
shame issues.
Nurture the next generation of women and men into happy, self-loving souls. I think that should be our goal. Yeah. It's still not too late for us. I still believe that we should still strive to be less critical of ourselves, but this is just how we feel and where we're at right now. Okay. Closing out.
Yep. Thanks for dealing with my tears, Wendy.
You know what makes me super uncomfortable?
I know, and you did a great job.
I hope I wasn't just like, oh.
No, you were fine.
Crying.
You were fine. Thank you for listening to this episode of Nudity. If you want to listen to this one and others before it, we talk about a range of topics, not just these ones. And that's on anywhere you listen to podcasts. And then Wendy does a video version on YouTube at Nudity Podcast. She'll start uploading eventually. And
tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, and we have an Instagram, Nudity Podcast. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.